guys, welcome back to the Single Parents Podcast. You'll see here that you are only joined by me today and not Anthony. He's behind the scenes, but it's Steph, and I have my pal Bree here joining us today.
Hello.
For a special Mother's Day episode. And we are going to be talking all things single moms, honestly.
I love it.
Which my pal Bree here is not a mom, but she was raised by a single mom, and she spends a lot of time with me, so she's surrounded by single moms all the time. So I think she's got some good experience.
This is true.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first I want to acknowledge the fact that people won't believe this, but we were at home at 10:45 last night on a Saturday. So I think that's very important.
And responsible.
Yeah, and responsible. So, what about me? I'm currently in my MSW program at Howard University to become a therapist. So, and I hang out with my pals all the time.
Yeah, just not my therapist.
Yeah, just not your therapist. Absolutely not.
As much as fun as that would be, I think it's maybe slightly inappropriate.
Yeah, it's against the code of ethics.
So before we get into it, a couple of important things. Anthony is behind the scenes threatening me if I do not say this to you guys. Mm-hmm. So make sure, it's super important that you subscribe to the podcast. You'll get notified every single week when a new episode comes up. Make sure you share it with someone in your life who you think would enjoy it, and give us a rating. And if it's not 5 stars, we'll come for you.
Okay, wow. It's threatening.
I'll send Brie after you. So yeah, let's just get into it.
Something to relate to.
All right. So Brie,
Yes.
I don't really have specific questions for you, but I just want you to tell me and everyone listening a little bit about your experience growing up with a single mom and what that was like, and maybe how that shaped your life.
Well, my parents got divorced when I was 3, and they were only married for 1 year. But I think it was interesting. It was different because, you know, growing up, everyone had 2 parents, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, why don't I have 2 parents? But then I, as an adult growing up, have really appreciated the things that my mom has given me as a single parent. Like anything that I asked for, I got. I was pretty spoiled, like constantly. I was involved in sports. She took time off of work to come see me. Like, she was always very present in my life and very encouraging and very just supportive, and she still is to this day. Like, there's things that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, and then my mom's like, no, you absolutely can, and she's the one who pushes me to do it. But I think one time I remember very specifically was like, I would go back and forth between my mom and my dad. And so one time, you know, typical kid, I was like, I want to go live with dad. And she was like, okay, well, pack everything that your dad has bought you and you can go live with him. And it was just like Barbies and toys. It was never clothes or underwear or anything that, you know, you need as a kid to survive. And that really kind of showed me all the things that she has done as a single parent and made me really appreciative of her.
Yeah. And I think especially in the situation you were in, because it's pretty different than the setup that Olive has with me and her dad, because he does live here. But how often did you go to your dad's? Was it on a regular basis or just here and there?
I think that I would go see him every weekend because they had 50-50 custody.
Okay.
But I think I would go see him every weekend. But it got to a point where, like, I wanted to stop going because that was my choice. Like, I didn't want to see my dad anymore because he just, I guess I would say, wasn't as present as he could have been. But now, I mean, and my dad passed away when I was 16. I think now, growing up, like, we would get along very well and we would have like a good relationship. But when I was younger, it was kind of like, okay, this is my dad. And then growing up, I got to see how much my mom did for me. Like, she organized birthday parties and she paid for my soccer uniforms and she just did all the things. And like, my dad was just there as the fun dad who, you know, took me to Chuck E. Cheese and got me pizza and then sent me on my way back to mom to deal with. So,
yeah. So I don't know. This is maybe a hard question, but how do you think, like, do you think that you developed certain personality traits or turned out a certain way because you were raised by a single parent? Or do you think that even if your parents had stayed together your whole life, things would have turned out the same?
That's a good question. I don't think I would turn out the same way. I think being raised by a single parent, it made me very assertive and very much knowing what I will stand for and what I won't stand for, because I don't know, I just feel like I just had one person to back me up, and it was always my mom, where like, you know, she made a big deal out of things that probably weren't a big deal, but she taught me that to never just like really let things go. Like, I think I was raised differently, well, very much differently than some of my friends. Like, I guess I don't want to use the term settle, but not settle is not the word, but just very much like I stand, and not saying that they don't, but I stand up for things that are important to me because that's how my mom taught me to be. I think if my parents were together, I would have a completely different personality than I do now.
Right. Yeah. I think that whether it's in like a positive or a negative way, I think that how you're raised, and whether that's in a 2-parent household or a single parent household, it does shape you a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I think that I grew up in a 2-parent household, and I would imagine that I would have turned out much different had I not. So,
yeah.
But I think that number one, Bree's mom is great. We all love her. So shout out to Bree's mom. But
Shout out to my mom.
she is very cool and very fun. And throughout our friendship, I've seen how supportive she is of you, and she is very cool, very good mom. So
yeah, I love her.
Don't we all? Yeah. Shout out Linda.
Go Linda. Her name's not really Linda, by the way. It's Leslie, but we call her Linda.
Bob's Burgers, Linda. I think it's perfect.
Yes, fitting.
So this is diving off the mom topic a little bit, but I think it does kind of highlight how different the time was at your dad's versus at your mom's.
Yeah.
So if you want to share some of those stories, I think people would probably find them as funny as I do.
Okay, yeah. So one time, God, I had to be about 7 or 8, and I went to my dad's for the weekend, and he was married to my stepmom, and I had a stepbrother at the time who I still talk to him. So shout out to my little brother. But my dad stopped at like a little convenience store, and I don't know what we're getting, but he is like picking up something, and we're walking out, and he's telling me like, oh, tonight that lady is going to come over and I'm going to put a monkey brain in her brain. Like, it's going to be the first brain transfer. It's going to be amazing. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're not a doctor. And he fully like had me out here convinced that he was a doctor. And I remember calling my older brother, my older half brother, and I was like, is dad a doctor? And I don't know how he got my brother in on this, but my brother was like, yeah, dad's a surgeon. Like, he's really good at it. He's like so good.
Commitment to the bit.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, no. Like, I was like, dad's an idiot. Like, if anything, he's stupid. Like, he couldn't make it past medical school. So I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, dad is going to put a monkey brain in someone tonight. And she's like, oh my God, Brianna. Like, no, he's not. And I was like, no, he is. He says he is. And so he just kept the whole entire night, like through dinner, through everything, just went through this whole entire bit of that this convenience store lady's gonna come over to the house, and he's gonna put a monkey brain in her brain, and it's gonna be great. And so I was okay.
My favorite part is that it's just some lady from the convenience store.
Not even his friend. Like, she knew him, but only because that was his like favorite convenience store.
Right.
But
He's just a regular.
Pals. Yeah, like they weren't pals or anything. So it's probably, God, it has to be like 10:30 at night or something, but I'm in bed. I'm asleep, and my dad comes in, and he like shakes me awake, and he's like, Brianna, and wakes me up. And I'm not kidding, dressed in full scrubs, like straight up full scrubs, little scrub hat on. He had gloves, and he's like, I'm gonna go put the monkey brain in her.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God,
this is actually happening.
Yeah, I was like, this is true. This is really happening. Like, that's crazy. Wow. So I was like, all right. I went back to sleep, woke up in the morning, went downstairs.
You were able to go back to sleep?
Yeah. Well,
Dad
honestly,
came in and told you this.
People
is the
could
most insane part.
Yeah, people could tell me anything, and if I'm going back to sleep. Like, you could tell me
That's
the world's
true.
ending, and
I've
I'd be
never met anyone that naps as often as Brie does. Like, genuinely, if you don't hear back from her for a while, literally yesterday, we were meeting up to get ready and, go out last night. And she just stopped responding to my texts for like 45 minutes. And I looked at my other friend that was going out with us and I was like, she's napping. Yeah. She's like, how do you know that? And I was like, I just know she's napping.
Yeah. I love a nap.
Yeah. Bree's
Bree's
a good sleeper.
If anything, I'll nap. But yeah, so I was like, okay, crazy. Woke up the next morning, went downstairs. My dad is up and he has his scrubs on and he has like towels piled on the table. And he's like, I got to get rid of these because this is like all the blood.
From the monkey brain operation.
Yeah, and then he had like the garbage bag tied up and he's like, this is where her brain's at. And like, I fully, wholeheartedly believe that my dad just did surgery, like brain surgery in our house when I was little. And that was a story about my dad.
Honestly,
was insane.
I really, really respect the commitment to the bit because he could have just told you this and like ran with it and then just been like, yeah, it's really happening. But the fact that this man went out and bought scrubs and then not only that, but came into your room in the middle of the night and said, this is happening right now.
Yeah. He had like a full, like he had the mask. He had everything going.
Like a full surgical outfit.
Yeah. And I was like really shocked. And then another time, like, and this is what I get for my love of horror movies, but like my mom, I think I was 3-ish. But my mom was like, don't let her watch Child's Play. Like, you have got to stop putting horror movies on for our kid. It's inappropriate. And so my dad's like, yeah, no, we won't watch it. We're just going to sit here and watch Barney. We did not sit there and watch Barney. We watched Tales from the Crypt and Child's Play. And yeah, that was my dad.
Yeah. And I mean, truly did shape you as a person because, yeah, my spookiest pal.
Oh, yeah. I love the spook. I love it.
Honestly, I love it. And I think you had, an interesting childhood. And I think both of your parents made it very interesting for you in like totally different ways.
Yes.
But, I've never had anyone top the monkey brain story.
Yeah. I just think it's so funny because I look back on it and just like the way my mom's house was compared to my dad's house was just, I mean, I had rules and stuff at my dad's house and rules and stuff at my mom's house, but it was just like completely total opposites. Like my mom would never make me believe she was a surgeon
and wake you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, to tell me the most asinine things. And I love that. And it's just so funny too, because like now I have a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have more respect for my dad in different ways. But he was hilarious because he's like this huge, tall, black guy. And you would think that he would like, be scary. No, he was always smiling and laughing and just saying out of pocket stuff that I'm like, yeah, I got that personality trait from him.
Right. You can look back and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm like, this connects.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Okay. So I think at our age, it's pretty normal to have mom friends. We're getting to the age that it's like people are on purpose having children. So
not on accident,
not on accident, like on purpose.
I choose to have them.
Yeah, which is so insane. Me as someone who chose to have a child on purpose, I'm like, that's crazy.
There she is.
She's sitting right in front of me right now. And I'm like, not an accident. I did that on purpose. But so I think you have a unique perspective because you have me, obviously, very important. You have me, who is a single mom, and you see both sides of me where I'm going out with you guys and we're going to bars and we're having fun. And then you also see like the mom side of me when we're like doing wholesome. I don't know if we're ever truly wholesome,
wholesome.
But
I don't know about that, but
that's a stretch.
Yeah.
But you see like the mom side of me where we're doing like girls' dinners, but they look a little bit different.
Yes.
And I've talked a lot on the podcast about, we've talked a lot about how to stay social as a single parent. And when a lot of single parents feel like they can't have a social life because they have their kids and whatever. And I've talked a lot about how Olive is just like part of our group. Like, she's just
one of the girls.
Yeah, like she just fits into the gang. And when she's with her dads, it looks a little bit different. But it's never like, oh, I have Olive, so I'm not coming out. Like rarely does that happen unless it's like 7:00 at night and you guys are like, oh, do you guys want to go do this? And I'm like, nah, it's a school night. We're going to stay home. But on a typical week that I have her, like, we hang out with you guys multiple times.
Right.
But I kind of want to talk about from your experience, because you also have friends who are married and are having kids, and the difference maybe in like what you see in the way that I do things as a single parent, or like things that maybe I have to do versus maybe your married parents, and what the differences you see there.
Well, that's really good. And this might be a little controversial, but I think that
heck yeah.
people kind of lose themselves when they have kids. Like, they really lose a big part of their identity in caring for your kids, which obviously that's super important. I'm not negating that fact, but like, people lose that social aspect of friendship and, you know, maintaining those friendships. And for me, in life, friendship has always been one of the most important things, because your friends get you through, you know, your ups and downs and all that stuff. So I really value friendships. So it's kind of gotten to, I guess, the point where, you know, I think people also think with their kids that like their friends are going to be their friends forever because that's your friend. And friendships are also like plants. Like, you have to pour water on it and help it grow. And it's not like, you know, and you could still do, I guess the thing is, like, you can still do stuff being a parent that you can do with your friends. It just looks a little different.
Right.
Like, we aren't beer bonging and we aren't shotgunning, but like, we can still do barbecues and we can still do all that kind of stuff. It just looks different. Like, we aren't, you know, going balls to the wall insane.
Right.
It's just different. And I think with you, it's been important that you incorporate Olive into that, so she sees that you do have a social life and you aren't just sitting at home crying to Taylor Swift.
Well, but that does happen often.
Yeah, but like, she gets to do fun stuff and kind of see parts of our lives, and like, we make it work. Like, I think people think, well, there's not a lot of stuff to do around here with kids. And it's like, you're absolutely correct. But like, we can also go to dinner.
Right.
We could have movie nights. We can make pizzas. Like, we can do all that kind of stuff. And I see people lose a lot of that, like, aspect of friendship when they have kids. And it kind of makes it hard to get back, because then your friends are kind of like, you know, like, you didn't really put into what
you stopped reaching out.
Yes, you stopped reaching out. You stopped reciprocating. So I'm not going to reciprocate something that's not reciprocating back to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think for anyone, it gets to a point, and I've made this point before in one of the episodes we were talking about, like, how somebody, I think somebody that listens in had asked, like, how do you have a social life? Like, how do you do it? And I made the point that a relationship with your friends is just like a romantic relationship. Like, you have to put the time in and you have to put the effort in. And it can't be like, oh, when we first start hanging out and we're so excited and we're going to do stuff all the time, but then you kind of like die down and you stop being the one to make the plans. But I think that having meaningful relationships in your life, whether they're romantic or not, are always going to take work.
Right.
And especially as you get older, your life starts to look different. Like, over the past year or so, you've been going to school, and so that has taken up more of your time. So it makes our hangouts look different, because maybe we go home a little earlier because you have a paper to write or whatever. But that doesn't mean that we stop reaching out to you because, oh, well, Brie always has homework, so I'm not even going to invite her. Like, and I think that that's the thing a lot of people, and I think especially parents, forget that your friendship relationships need just as much work as all of the other relationships in your life.
Yes. And I think that's a good thing too, when that person asks, it's like, it's about finding the balance. Like, you have to balance that kind of stuff, like you balance everything else in your life. And I mean, friendships, it's such an important aspect. And like, I'm glad that Olive gets to see like strong female friendships in her life, because, you know, we constantly are out here supporting each other. And even on nights that you have Olive and we're like, hey, do you want to go to dinner? And you're like, well, I have Olive. It's like, okay, what's the point? Yeah, like, and bring her. And she brings her little games and her little stuffies, and we play and we hang out and we just talk and we do the stuff that we normally do when you don't have Olive.
Yeah, and I think that that's the biggest thing, is like, our nights with Olive, maybe besides being out later, look the same. as our nights without Olive.
Right.
And I think that I see it all the time. And I have friends too who, you know, maybe are newer parents or whatever. And it's the same thing as I'm like, the relationship starts to fall off. And I'm like, okay, well, if this isn't important to you, then I'm not going to reach out either.
Right.
But I think especially, I mean, and I've said this before, I think it's unique where I do have a 50-50 schedule with Olive's dad. So I do get to have that time with you guys that is truly just adult time. And so I'm lucky for that because it's not like, it's always like, well, I can only be out till 7. Like, you know, so we can have an adult hangout all the time whenever we want. But I think, like you said, it is important to teach your kids what meaningful relationships look like, and not just romantic relationships, like what meaningful relationships look like across the board.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important to just, you know, show her that you have to maintain friendships the same way like you maintain romantic relationships. And for me, it's never, I mean, I've never wanted kids. So it's a little, I mean, people are probably like, then why are you talking about it? But it's like, you know, I see it because I see people who dedicate their whole lives to their kids, but they let those friendships fall to the wayside, and then they're kind of like, well, I don't have any friends. And it's like, you just you have to find the balance too, because your friends are your family. Like they're going to be the ones who support you like through the hard times and the bad times. I mean, if you have good friends, hopefully.
Yeah,
but
ideally.
Ideally your friends are going to be there. So I think it's important that they get to see, like, your kids get to see you maintain friendships too, and show them that not just like your romantic relationships, but, you know, your friendships as well. And you hear that from a lot of people who have newborn babies, and they talk about how like part of their romantic relationship has fallen to the side. And I couldn't imagine having a newborn baby, but again, like, you know, it's just all about finding that balance and maintaining it. And sometimes it does take a lot of work, and it's a little hard and it's a struggle. But I also think the best thing about it, like, if you're honest with your friends and you're like, hey, like, I'll tell you guys, I can't hang out because I'm drowning in papers. Like, and when you're like, I can't hang out because Olive has homework and she didn't do it, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like that, stuff like that. That's important. So it's important to be like, hey, I can't hang out because I'm struggling right now with being a parent and a single parent and all the things that come with it. So just so you know that, but I always love you and I'm here. And then your friends, like, I mean, I'm obviously going to reciprocate that and be like, yeah, dude, let me know whatever you need. I'm here to help. But,
and I think that it's like the big communication factor of it. And you see all the time, like, you know, on TikTok, someone will be like, oh, have kids and you'll find out who your true friends are. But I always wonder, I'm like, how much responsibility are you taking in that?
Right.
Because I do know right now it's a lot easier. Olive's 7, almost 8 years old. I can take her anywhere. She can hang out with us. It is a lot harder when you have a newborn.
Yeah.
But it comes down to that communication of like, hey, I value your friendship.
Right.
I can't go out right now. I don't want to pack the baby up and go out to dinner. What if you guys just come over here and we order a pizza? You know what I mean? Like, those relationships can should change and evolve the older you get. Yeah. But I think I see it all the time, and it's like, you'll find out who your friends are, and I'm like, maybe they're finding out who you are. Because if you're also not putting in any effort to maintain that relationship and doing kind of like the poor me, my friends don't have kids and they don't understand. I know that my friends don't have kids, and you guys, because I communicate to you, like, when I am having a hard time, like, you guys are very often my sounding board. And it doesn't matter to me that you have never raised a kid. Like, I talk to you guys about stuff all the time. Like, I'll be like, hey, this is something that like I'm struggling with as a parent. And I am very lucky to have a friend that's, you know, going to be a therapist, and our other, our other bestie pal, Kelsey. Shout out Kelsey. We love you.
Kelsey.
We love you.
Well, social worker.
But she's a social worker. And so my friends do have a lot of really, really valuable experience. And I think that that makes them really reliable sounding boards. But I mean, even my other friends who obviously aren't in those lines of work, it's, as a parent, you can take an outside perspective from other people. And it doesn't have to be like, well, she doesn't have a kid, so she wouldn't get it. But like, I all the time will be like, hey, like, Olive is struggling with this, and like, I'm at a loss for what to do, and I value having that relationship, especially as a single mom, because I don't have a partner to sound off to
Yes.
about like stuff like that. So I think that as parents, we should take more value in our friends and allow them to become more of a part in the parenting process. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a parent to help your friend out when they're struggling, whether
Right.
that's just like listening to them vent or, being there just to hang out when they need it. But
Right.
I think a lot of people forget. And I think, I don't know, you can tell me, I think it's harder when your married friends have kids to maintain those relationships.
Yeah, that's been a struggle, and I think it's kind of like the same with, people want to, when you get your romantic partner, you want to spend all your time with them and do all this stuff with them, which I think is great and loving, but also like then you kind of lose yourself in the things that you used to do and all that stuff. But also like even with married friends, it's like they want, I'm not like, yeah, you want to spend time with
Right.
your partner and your kid, but also like your friendships go to the wayside and
Yeah.
you don't see your friends as much. And again, it's like you were saying, how people are saying, well, have a baby and you're going to find out who your friends are. Well, that's not totally true. Like, I mean, yeah, you are, but also your friends are going to find out who you are because it is a two-way street. Like, it's a relationship. Granted, not romantic, but you have to put in the same effort that you put into your romantic relationships too. Because in the end, like, in 10 years, when your kid is 10 years old and you're going to be like, hey, I want to hang out. I'm going to be like, that's too bad. Like,
Right.
I'm out here living life. Like,
It's like their kid graduates high school and all of a sudden they're like, hey,
I'm like,
let's
wow,
go out.
yeah, I
And you're
haven't
like,
seen you in 18
what do you mean?
years. Like, that's crazy.
you literally disappeared.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't even know you're still around.
I thought you moved away.
Yeah. Wow.
But
So
I think it does come back to kind of what you said at the very beginning of this. Like, when you have a kid, it is very easy to kind of lose a big part of yourself. But I think you don't have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing is you definitely become a different person. Like,
Right.
pre-mom Steph and mom Steph are two totally different people.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I don't still view myself as an individual outside of being a mother.
Right.
And you can. And I think the biggest way not to do that is to maintain your friendships from before you had a kid, because they're going to remind you and they're going to take you out for fun and they're going to talk you into, get a babysitter. You haven't gone out in forever. And like, those are the things that are going to make you keep a hold of that part of yourself and not just turn into this, like, I'm just a mom and a mom only and I never do anything fun. And then it's depressing.
Yes.
Like, I did that probably for the first 3 years of Olive's life. Like, I just was, and I have my friends that have truly stuck with me through it all. But I spent the whole first 3 years of her life as a stay-at-home mom, married, never went and did anything other than like be a mom and like hang out with my family, which is great. I love hanging out with my family, but I didn't go out for girls' nights. Like, I didn't go do any of that stuff.
Right.
And it's like, it gets to a point that you're like, am I anyone besides a mom?
Yes.
And that's like not a fun place to be, because you should still be, as a parent, as a mom, you should still be allowing yourself to be an individual on top of that too.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think I always remember my mom growing up, like, she would still go out and have fun and do all this stuff. So for me, like, that aspect isn't weird of like, having a babysitter. And it's like, I'm not being like, oh my God, Steph, get a babysitter every night so we can go out every night. Like, no, we aren't doing that. Like,
No.
you'll get a babysitter when like we went to Boise or something.
Right.
Like,
when we have like a big event planned.
Doing like the little girls trips that we do. But that's also an important aspect of our friendship for us too, is that we take those trips and we get to spend time together, and like we do so much stuff together and with Olive that like, I think that's so important for her to see, and like for other people to see that like, yes, you can do both. It does take work, but you can do both.
Well, and I think it's important for Olive too. Like, she is able to maintain and build relationships to people who become very important to her that she's not related to. And she learns what a safe relationship looks like. And she learns what a caring relationship looks like just through having these people in her life who treat her like she's important. Like literally Brie got here today and Olive like literally ran and jumped on her and gave her like the world's longest hug. Like and I think that especially like our biggest priority obviously is like making sure our kids are safe as moms. And I think introducing them, they're going to their entire life interact with adults and people that are older than them. And I think that teaching them what a safe relationship looks like with someone who's older than them, related or not, is so important. And I think that that's something as a parent that your friends can do for your kids. If you have good friends who are safe people, they can teach your kids what a relationship like that should look like, a respectful relationship should look like.
Correct. And your kids are always going to know when someone to them is unsafe.
Right.
Like, and they're always going to have that instinct of letting, like, when someone's unsafe, kids are going to know. And they're going to, like, they're going to have little subtle body languages that let you know. But that's also the other thing, too, that's kind of important is, like, you know, you should teach your kids to be wary of people, but also, like, you can't just completely shut them off from the world.
Yeah, for sure. They like that's the thing is you can't only have your kids know you and your spouse and maybe their aunts and uncles, and then they go out into the world, they go, you know, start going to school, and all of a sudden there's all these adults who are authority figures to them, and they don't know how to interact with them, and they don't know how to, I mean, even be a person in society because they've been shielded from it for so long.
You want your kid to be like Nick Miller, not Jess Day.
Yeah.
Or she gets the candy. She gets the candy from the van.
That's a perfect analogy, actually.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's fun. We have fun.
We have fun.
And as a mom, you can have fun.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're not a bad mom if you go out with your friends.
Yeah.
Even if you're a married mom, maybe you're a 24/7 single mom and you don't have those weeks off or weekends off without your kids. Go out, let yourself just be an adult sometimes. I think that for me has been like my saving grace through this entire like single parent experience is still allowing myself to just be myself and do fun things. And then, you know, it makes me, when I do have Olive, like I feel refreshed and I feel ready to like step into the mom shoes, which you don't ever step out of them, but we'll literally be like we were out of town when we went to Boise.
Yeah.
And we had like just gotten there and I looked at them and I was like, I miss Olive.
Yeah.
Like day one on our girls trip.
Like, we're only here for like 2 days. It'll be okay.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're going to be all right.
Just like call her. I think that's important to let yourself, you know, be a mom, but also like, you know, you don't have to go out. Like, invite your friends over to watch movies. We like to do that stuff. Like, in fact, I can promise you I would rather be at home watching 100%. Movies, eating pizza than like going to freaking Ruby's.
Right. Oh my God. Well, and it's like, if you are friends with a single parent and maybe they're not reaching out and maybe they have kind of like shut off from you, like, I think maybe reach out and give it a chance and like try and like reel them back in. And if they're not reciprocating at all, I think it's fair to let that go. But I think too, it does, maybe if you haven't ever been the type of parent that like does stuff like that, if you have friends who are single parents, hey, call them. Literally, my friends will text me and just be like, what are you doing? And I'll be like, nothing. Me and Oliver just at home. And they're like, okay, we're on our way over. Like, and we just hang out. And I think that if you have friends who are parents, maybe start giving them ideas for ways that you guys can maintain that relationship that involves their kid. And you're not like making them think like, oh my gosh, every time my friends want to hang out, I have to get a babysitter and it costs money. And then it, you know, it's like this whole ordeal.
Right.
I think reaching out and just saying like, hey, we bought this stuff to make pizzas. We're coming over.
Yeah.
Like, and that's such an important thing to do. Yeah. Maybe for your mom friends if you have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it.
I think it's good.
I think it's really good. Just pals palling around.
Two pals palling around.
Two pals palling around.
Two pals having a pal day.
Love it.
I love it.
You know, Anthony gave me the headphones, and this is a huge moment for me. Because if you guys are, you know, longtime supporters, you know, how long have I been doing this now? 2 months?
It was back in February, so yeah, 2.5 months, 3 months.
Dang, wow, I've really been out here.
You
Time
have.
flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you've been watching since I came on, I don't ever get to wear the headphones. So this is like huge. But also, I've never been the one to like be in charge of the flow of the show. And so I was just saying that we're kind of doing everything opposite. We usually do a little fun chit chat at the beginning. We're doing it at the end today because I'm in charge.
What I wish would have happened, I wish that you would have just spent the whole entire time staring at the light. Like you were at the beginning. Like a little
I don't know what happened to me. It like sucked me in and I could not stop staring at it until
Yeah.
it was like hurting my eyes.
Oh, you know what else we should talk about? Your crazy serotonin boost that you had on Thursday.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if we should talk about
And
that.
okay.
That was so insane.
So Thursday nights are typical girls' nights, and Steph was just out here very high on a serotonin boost. It's
Not
actually-
high on
Yeah, not high.
anything
just
illegal.
Anything, yeah, just
my
the serotonin.
my own brain drugs.
her own brain chemistry. And she was having the best time. And
I really
she
did.
had-
I kept telling Brie, I kept saying like, I am having so much fun and
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
And I was like, it's not that fun. Like
We were just sitting. We were literally just sitting at a table with like the same
Yeah,
people we're always with.
I was like,
at
this
the
is-
same bar we always go to,
this
and I
is
was like,
every-
this is so fun.
it's like this is every Thursday for us.
And I wasn't drunk. Like
But then you had 3 espresso
I did have 3.
martinis.
Okay, so this is important to note. We have a 3-drink rule if we're going out on like a work night. Sometimes we don't follow it, but typically we do. So I'm like, I'm being so responsible. I'm doing the 3-drink rule tonight. I have a long day at work tomorrow. Pro tip, espresso martinis do not fall under the 3-drink
They
rule
don't.
because they're so delicious.
They are.
You don't think about the fact that they're straight alcohol. But yeah, so Thursday night, typical girls' night. For some reason, my brain just decided all of the serotonin it's been withholding for me, it decided to let me have all of it at once.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, hey, you know, it'd be cool. Spread that out a little.
In
Share the wealth.
increments.
Yeah. Like, just give me a drop here and there. No, I got like, it was so random, but just like the most aggressive serotonin dump. And I was really out here. I don't think I stopped talking for like 3
At all.
hours straight.
You didn't stop. And then you kept saying like the most ridiculous things of all time. Like you were doing Kelsey coded stuff.
Yeah, it was
And
crazy.
it was wild that it
Yeah.
was coming out of your mouth instead of Kelsey's, which was really off putting to me. And
I
then
loved it.
when I had to take you home and you sat in my car for an hour and talked
I
about
wouldn't get
Cave
out.
of Bones.
If you haven't seen The Cave of Bones on Netflix, it's so good. And I will talk about that serotonin
Yeah.
dump or not. But I really did hold you hostage in
You
your own
really
car
did.
for like an hour.
Yeah, with your mac and cheese and your
Oh my God, that was
spicy
so good
sandwich.
too.
That
I don't know.
was-
I don't know if that was the serotonin speaking, but a spicy chicken sandwich from KFC with their mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Banger.
My serotonin just stays at normal levels constantly.
Must be nice. I don't think that's true, but
What are you talking about? Don't do this to me on the podcast.
I'm just going to expose you in front of everyone. Remember that time?
That time that you were so depressed we didn't hear from you for 3 days.
Literally, we were about to call the police.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
I made it back somehow, some way.
We did it. We drew you out. This is how we knew it was bad because she tried to cancel Thursday night girls' night on us. And we were like, absolutely not. If you don't show up at this restaurant, we're showing up at your house.
Yeah.
So,
My therapist even told me I had to go.
yeah, her therapist literally threatened her
Yeah.
and told her she wasn't allowed to cancel on us.
Yeah.
So she's real for that.
Shout out to my therapist. I'm not going to say her name.
Yeah, we
because
won't
she's
name
my
drop her.
therapist,
Yeah.
Okay. She's mine.
We
so
won't name
stay
drop
away
your
from her.
therapist. It's okay. Kelsey already gave
I'm
me hers.
gatekeeping therapists. Collecting them like Pokemon.
I think as a therapist, you should be allowed to at least meet all of your clients' friends
Oh.
at least once. So then
Yeah.
when you're like, when they're telling you stuff about their friends, then you're like, have a face and you're like, oh, I've met her and that tracks.
I don't know about that. Because
I don't know about the ethics behind that because I'm not going to school, but I think it would be
mean,
fun.
I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I would want to. I think like also being a therapist, and like part of being a therapist is like people come in and they tell you like obviously the most deepest, darkest, parts of their life, but then also there's kind of like a certain lore to the
Right.
people when they tell you about like their husband or their boyfriend or something. And then like, being out in a small town, you see them and they'll come up to you and be like, oh, by the way, this is my husband. And you're like, this, like, wow.
Yeah.
It's
This
in
is
the
not
flesh.
what I pictured.
Yeah, it's like not in the flesh. Like, I don't know. That's how I sometimes think about it.
I just think about often when I went to your 30th birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked across the bar and my therapist was sitting at the bar.
Yeah.
My therapist who I ghosted. I'm so sorry for ghosting you. You were amazing.
I want to say that
Took a break.
I don't know how she ended up there because she wasn't invited, but or maybe she was. Maybe my mom
I
invited
think
her.
your mom invited her.
But all I know is that my 30th birthday party, they asked me if I wanted to like close down Ogie Deli, and I was like, no, keep it open. And then all these random people just showed up, and I was like, want some cake?
Come on in.
Yeah, it's like, let's have fun.
Yeah. I just think about that made me think like if I ran into my therapist like out, I don't think I would, not because I don't want to talk to them, but I don't think I would like go up to them in public and be like, hey, this is my husband. Like, I think I would just be like across the room, like, and then move on with my life,
Yeah. Some people though, like, I mean, some people do that. They're like, oh, small wave. I mean, some people just like, there's like no
boundary.
filter,
Yeah.
like no filter there. They'll just come up. But it's also kind of the same as bartending too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because remember, you're bartending and people just tell you like the wildest stories.
We talked about this. Anthony witnessed it in real life.
Yeah. I love
What
that
a he's truly over there like with a swaddled baby feeding it a bottle.
Swaddled baby.
He's being held hostage by my child. He's a girl dad because it looks so natural.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing. I don't know if Anthony will ever put me fully in charge again because this has gone off the rails a little bit. But it is our Mother's Day episode, so maybe we close this out by sharing all of your favorite things about me.
I thought you were going to say all my favorite things about my mom, and I was like, yes.
I do think we should do that. I'm just joking. But you can also include me in all your favorite things.
All my favorite things about you. You're a little insane, and I love that. I think it's fun.
The best people are.
It spices up our friendship. But also you're so supportive, and you're such a good mom.
Okay.
And you really like care about your friends and your child, obviously. But I don't know. The last time I did this, you cried. So I don't want to do it.
So don't go too deep because
I think our friendship has been a real blessing, and I'm really grateful that you're one of my best pals.
I'm not gonna cry. I will though. One thing about Brie, I'm just gonna side note, Brie does not say nice things very often. So when she does, I buckle up and I'm like, I'm here, ears open.
Yes.
She is an amazing, supportive, wonderful friend, but
Thanks.
you don't get the sweet side of Brie super often.
Yeah, I'm not. That's just not it.
Yeah. She's one of those people that's like gonna always just tell you exactly how it is, which I think is great. But yeah, so every time I get like a little morsel of her just being an absolute angel, I just hold on.
Yeah. Well, and then you cry, and then I'm like,
I
knew I should have done this.
That's what you get for having a cancer as your best pal. Anyway, I do think we should share maybe our favorite things about our moms. I didn't really say anything about my mom in this episode. Shout out my mom because I do love her.
She is awesome.
She's so fun. My mom is like 10 million times more fun than I am.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary because she's really out here she's on a cruise right now, living her best life.
She's on a cruise?
She's on a ship right now in the middle of the ocean.
Dang. Did your dad go?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like,
she's just by herself.
She's just by herself. I was like, damn.
That would be crazy.
I was like, that's good for her. That's
She's
a boss.
I'm
She's
going
like,
on
you're staying
vacation.
at home, Dave.
Not name dropping my dad. My dad's fake name.
Your dad's fake name.
I don't know why you guys refuse to believe my dad's name is actually
I know
Dave.
that
It's
his
Kelsey.
name is Dave. Yeah.
Kelsey refuses to believe my dad's name is Dave. But anyway, I think my mom really, truly, my whole life showed me what it looks like to be a strong, hardworking woman. And I think my mom really instilled such a deep level of hard work, truly. Like, I never had like a stay-at-home mom. I never had any of that. And I had a lot of friends who did, but I truly don't feel like I ever missed out on anything. My mom worked a full-time job my entire life. Like I remember when we were young, she worked at Del Taco, which probably just gave me my love for Del Taco because I was like Olive's age. We would, like, my mom truly worked so hard that she would have someone pick us up from school and drop us off at Del Taco, and we would sit in the back. Well, she can't get fired now, so if this isn't allowed, I don't care. But
she's gone with Del Taco.
She'd put us in the back, like, dry storage room, and we would, like, hang out back there till she got off work. And then, because, like, we couldn't afford a babysitter, so if, like, my grandparents couldn't have us for some reason, we would just be in the back rooms at Del Taco playing with the bags of nacho cheese or whatever.
Yeah.
But my mom truly has been such a hardworking person my entire life, and someone that I could really, really look up to as a woman. Like, I think having someone in your life that is such a hard worker like that really affects how you grow up and choose to take care of yourself. Obviously my dad was a hard worker too, but I think my mom is definitely the type of person, more so than me, like, she always stands up for herself. She doesn't take anyone's shit ever. So my mom is really a baddie for that. But my mom's awesome. And truly getting to see my mom be a grandma is the coolest thing ever. Like, she honestly is such a pushover with the grandkids. And then it pisses you off because I'll be like, if I would have done that, you would have
been in trouble.
Kicked my ass. Yeah. And I'm like, Olive does something and my mom's like, well, she's just and I'm like, really? If I would have done that, you would have literally grounded me for like 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's very cool getting to see my mom be a grandma. Love my mom. Shout out my mom. She's the coolest person I know. But
I love that the baby is
writing the giraffe. Yeah. But there's a lot happening in here today.
Yeah. Shout out to your mom, because she's awesome.
She's so cool.
I also, my mom showed me what it was like to be strong and hard, and she always pushed me to follow my dreams and continue. And she's never said anything negative, like anything bad towards me. Like, if I said I want to travel to the moon and build my own rocket ship, my mom would be like, okay, how can I help?
Yeah.
Like, she's never diminished, or she's always made me shine bright. And I think that's awesome. Like, I think one of the biggest things for me that I'll forever remember is after graduating, I was like, well, I want to apply to MSW program because I think my path in life is social work. And I was like, ooh, I want to apply to Howard, like Howard, top Black university, have a very high success rate, very high caliber of people who come out of there. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna apply. And she was so excited. She literally just found out all that she could about Howard and was sending me all this stuff. And she always encouraged me. There was at one point where I was like, I'm not gonna send in my application. And not that I didn't have my own money, but she paid for the application fee for me. And she has always just been supportive and loving. And if I wanted kids, I hope that I could be half the mom that she is.
Yes.
So
shout out
Linda. I love you.
Love you,
and
Linda.
She lets me call her Linda. And now she gets phone calls from people at Ulta at the salon.
Okay, I have to tell, this is your mom, but I'm telling this story because I think it's so funny. She does not watch Bob's Burgers, has never watched a single episode.
Never seen.
This woman went and got Linda Belcher tattooed on her.
Yeah.
Because that's her nickname.
I call her Linda. And I don't even know
She's so real Linda for that. I love it.
I don't know how that came about, but she doesn't watch Bob's Burgers. Has never seen a single episode.
When she showed it to me, I was like, oh, I love Bob's Burgers. Do you like it? And she was like, I've never watched it.
Yeah. I was like,
you are so real for that.
Real, yeah. She has people who call the salon at Ulta and they're like, can I make an appointment with Linda? And it's like, her government name is Leslie, but her actual name is Linda.
Her name's Linda, and I refuse to call her anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
this has been really fun.
It's been fun.
I appreciate your hot takes on everything, and
always
it's been a blast. Just us hanging out with microphones. So
I think it's
only
good.
Slightly different than our normal hangouts.
We have to start our other podcast.
I know. One day when we start our podcast,
we'll shout it out on here.
Yeah, this one won't be single parent related.
No,
but
this will be unhinged. This one has some tales.
Some tales to be told.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
So shout out our non-existent podcast. But
check it out.
Make sure, like I said earlier, make sure you're subscribed. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.